OGLEE in the house once again. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Have you ever heard a white person talking to someone else and they're describing a black person who they're trying to say is kind of like on the intellectual tip? So they're saying that they're describing him and saying that he's black. You know, he's black. He's not black, but you just got to meet him.
My mom used to say this, maybe your mom did too. You can tell a lie and it'll make its way all the way around the globe before the truth has a chance to get its shoes on.
So this is the kind of brother they could be talking about. Because see, they would share stories like that. Because my mom ain't never said no shit like that. And most black people's mothers I know, they never said no shit like that.
You can tell a lie and it'll make its way all the way around the globe before the truth has a chance to get its shoes on.
You know, my mom never said that. Maybe yours did. But my man here, Kevin Cork, he's a news reporter for Fox, right? And so this brother here, man, is dynamic. You know, to be able to graduate, I think maybe like magna cum laude or something from Harvard. Hell of a accomplishments, all in the Harvard journalism school and shit. But so this brother's powerful, right? But I always say to people, you got different levels of black people because they tend to clump all black people. And Lord, don't be the police. But anyway, the average white person does that. You know, when they say things like that, he's black, but he's not black. You know what I mean? And so, what do they mean by that? Their meaning is that he's black in terms of his complexion, you know, his exterior, but other than that, everything else about him is white. And so I think that has to, you know, transpire when you go to these type of, Ivy League schools or whatever, and you have to be a minority in an Ivy League school, you know, like Harvard, if you're a minority in the society at large, right? So you know you're going to be one in Harvard, the top damn academic school damn near the country, right? Arguably the top. So here you have this brother here. He comes out of a production. He comes out of the college like a lot of people. And so you listen to him and it's like.
And so what happens is somebody makes this wild accusation about it being this or it being that. That lie gets everywhere. And by the time someone reads the bill or someone actually fact checks what has been said, unfortunately, it gets lost in the wash.
We typically think of a black man, whether it's a black person in America or a white person, a Chinese person or whatever, you don't tend to think of this brother in an intellectual way, just because of the historical nature of black people in America. It intrigues me when I see a brother like this because I look at him in terms of the black America that I know. And I know very few brothers that when you hear them talk, it's a possibility that you could think that they're white. I don't say that in any way denigrating the brother. I'm proud of him. You know what I'm saying? He's broke through, as it were. So it's not a thing of denigrating him, but I'm just being real. I've seen comedians even, you know, try to imitate brothers like this with a high-pitched voice. That tends to be something that we typically lend to a white male. When you say something about a brother, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of intellectual brothers, but it's always just a way that you can literally tell when someone's talking, most times, the race they are in America. That's just what it is. If you hear a Hispanic, you can kind of tell. So a lot of Hispanics, when they really want to fit in, they try, and a lot of times they just can't. They try to put as much of a native tongue on the language as possible, and when they can do that, it's like, hey, we made it. Just like black people, you know, same thing. We speak in the King's English now. I realize that there are different, you know, types of black people, and we do that within ourselves, but a lot of times people from the outside looking in don't realize dealing with a different, if you will, a species of a person, black, white, red, or brown. You hear a white person speak, and then you hear another white person speak who might be what we would call trailer park trash. There's going to be a difference. I would like people to distinguish, be able to distinguish across the spectrum in terms of the black race, and not just be like, oh man, all of these, black people get clumped into, one class of people. This guy right here, he come from an upper echelon of black people. That's a different class of nigga. Huh? That's the bottom line. People need to know that there are different classes of black people. I'm just saying, like, if you heard Richard Pryor make a joke trying to sound like a white boy, what was he doing? He sounds like this.
Anytime someone wants to invoke the expression Jim Crow,
right? And so that's why we've always joked with some of the brothers that we do know that do sound like this. It's like, oh wow, he think he's white. Why is it that a lot of young brothers don't want to grow up to be like Kevin, but they'd rather be like perhaps LeBron James or Michael Jordan? And it has been for a long time in our culture that if you come across as intellectual, you've sold out. You're acting like white people. When you leave, for instance, I don't know if he was, born and raised in the hood. He probably was. So the hood, as it were. So, but when you were born and raised in the hood, and then you change, the dialect of your speech and what have you to fit in, they call it a self. If you've gained intelligence or intellect, your dialect should not matter as long as you're communicating. And so to lose your dialect and begin to sound like someone someone different than when you left. And this is probably a good part of it, and that is to be able to juggle, right? So that if you learn this, so to go along with the white people to get along, then you would be talking the way, you talk when you're amongst white people. But when you're with black people, you use more of a dialect. So some people will be like, well, I'm not talking like white people. I'm talking English. You know what I mean. You don't speak that shit in most hoods. You don't speak proper like that. That is that Harvard education. And it's great if you got it. I'm just saying, when you cross over to that, most people from the culture, it's been habitual for us to say, oh, talking like a white person. He's acting like a white person. Because that wasn't a part of our culture. If I'm in Spain, am I going to be speaking proper like white people? You're not going to go into Spain speaking this perfect English shit because they don't understand you. You would speak the native language if you really wanted to communicate effectively. So when you're a black person, and when you, at the end of the day, you come out of it speaking like a white person, I'm just saying, that's great and everything, but the bottom line is, if you're communicating effectively, which is great, because that King's English, people do understand. But if you're communicating effectively, you try to get down on people's level. This brother comes across as some people would say, is proper. That is not the way most brothers even want to come across. In other words, they want to be a nigga with some bass in his voice. And I'm just got to realize, people are in this world to try to get ahead, and usually in America to try to get ahead monetarily. And so you do what these folks tell you to make that money. I would just say, if that's what you want to do, hey, do you. The way I see it, again, if you lose all of your culture, if you lose all of your culture to include your language, because again, if you go over to Peru, you're not going to be speaking no perfect fucking English. They don't understand you. You got to speak Peruvian. So if you're dealing with people in the hood, to me, the idea is not to make them think that they have to change all these aspects of their culture to be able to advance themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. It's good to be able to communicate so that when you're in that world that you can be able to do whatever, usually related to capitalism, a job or a business or whatever. But when you come back into your culture, which we should recognize by now that we are a culture within the society. So when you come back to your culture, speak the language. And I think you probably could pull more people up. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like vinegar and honey. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to get bees, you're going to get more bees if you're dealing with the honey. So the vinegar is like this language that, wow, it seems fun. If you're smart and you see your people suffering, you don't want to pull them up for them to have the mentality, I got to get out of this place. You want to, hey, you want to stay in this place, and you bring all of the stuff that's useful from the people you learned it from all of these Harvard, Yale, or whatever, but communicate with the people kind of like, to where they feel like he's one of us. The second he starts talking to you, you're going to say, okay, well, this is a different kind of guy. We don't normally hear and see guys like this, at least in the hoods I'm in. I don't meet no guy who speaks like this to where if I've got him on video or something like that, and I don't see his picture, then I think, well, I'm not sure if he's black or white. He had to sacrifice a part of his culture to get to where he wants to be, a news reporter on Fox. Because I have not heard one news reporter on Fox that has any kind of black dialect about him, regardless of whether or not he's speaking the right words and communicating everything like he's supposed to. The dialect aspect of it is very important. Almost like having a white blonde chick or something like that as a news anchor, as opposed to somebody named Cedric, you know what I'm saying, that's got a fucking afro and all of this. That's the reality saying. But anyway, I thought it very interesting looking at my man here, Kevin. Again, just because it was something that popped up and I'm, oh, who's this guy? Because I don't pay attention to it that much to know him. But I heard a couple of snippets from what he was doing, and it put me in the mind of Richard Pryor when he's doing them stick up the ass jokes and shit. But yeah, here's a man, Kevin, done real well, man. Harvard, good credit, all the stuff like that. And I would say too, there's a correlation between niggas who speak like this and niggas who got good credit, right? Right? Anyway. This is OGLEE, and I'll see you again.